There is a moment tonight, Scorpio, when you will catch yourself saying yes to something you should have refused hours ago. Watch for it, because today's sky is quietly testing where your boundaries actually live, and the answer might surprise you. Let us start with the picture forming above you right now. Neptune continues its long, slow drift through your sixth house of work and daily routine, the zone that governs how you labor, serve, and show up each day. This is not a one-day event. It has been dissolving the hard edges around your obligations for a while now, and the effect is subtle rather than dramatic. Boundaries that used to feel obvious start to blur. A request that would normally trigger an immediate no somehow slides through unchallenged. Many people carrying this transit describe a creeping inability to say no, whether to a demanding boss, a needy friend, or a deal that looks better than it is. Layer onto that a faster moving signal. The moon tonight sits in your fifth house of creativity, romance, and play, and it forms a square to unpredictable Uranus in your eighth house of shared resources and emotional entanglement. In Western tropical terms, a lunar square to Uranus is friction between comfort and disruption, between what feels good and what suddenly changes underneath you. Practically, this often shows up as a surprise around money, timing, or trust connected to something fun you were planning. Nothing catastrophic, just enough of a jolt to make you reconsider the scale of your plans. And there is a third current worth naming, because Vedic tradition, working from a different zodiac calculation than the Western system, places today's moon in Aquarius, a placement associated with unexpected openings and forward motion. Sidereal astrologers reading this transit point to a window, roughly 2:15 to 3:15 in the afternoon, when guidance from someone senior or unfamiliar could land with unusual weight. It is worth staying receptive during that stretch, especially if the advice comes from someone with more experience than you. Pattern interrupt. Curiosity bridge. Here is what almost nobody mentions when they talk about a chart like this. These three signals, the slow dissolving of boundaries, the sudden financial jolt, and the sidereal window of guidance, are not separate stories. They are the same lesson told 3 times in 3 different dialects. Think about what that means for your evening plans first, since love is where this often shows up fastest. With the moon still moving through your romantic 5th house, you may notice yourself wanting the bigger gesture, the fuller plan, the grand version of a date or a creative project with someone you care about. But that Uranus square is whispering a complication into the budget, or the timing, or the emotional stakes involved. If you have been feeling pulled towards something more elaborate than the moment calls for, that pull is real, and so is the friction underneath it. The fix is not to cancel your joy. It is to right-size it. A smaller version of the plan, one that still feels genuinely alive, will hold up better than an oversized one that cracks under its own weight. Ask for the actual details before committing. What does it cost? What does it require of you emotionally? Who else is affected? Vulnerability serves you well today, and letting someone see how you actually feel, rather than performing confidence, tends to bring people closer rather than pushing them away. There is also a sharper edge worth naming honestly. With feisty energy testing the moon in your 5th house, some Scorpios will feel the pull of comparison, measuring their relationship, their creativity, or their social standing against someone else's highlight reel. Curb the cutting commentary if it surfaces, toward yourself or toward a partner. Criticism lands harder than usual right now, and warmth genuinely accomplishes more than a sharp observation ever could. Pattern interrupt. Direct address. If you are a Scorpio rising as well, pay close attention to how this plays out at work, because the same blurred boundary energy follows you into professional territory. That 6th house Neptune transit we opened with does not just affect chores and errands. It touches your entire relationship to labor itself, paid or unpaid. You may have noticed a growing fatigue around obligations you once handled without complaint. That is not laziness. It is your chart asking you to look honestly at what you are actually escaping, and whether the escape is healthy or corrosive. Some Scorpios respond to this diffusion by drifting into a genuinely inspiring, less conventional way of working. Others respond by quietly overcommitting until resentment builds. The difference lies entirely in whether you stay a realist about what is actually being asked of you. Fix any imbalance at work today before it calcifies into something bigger. A boundary you draw now, even a small one, costs far less than the one you will be forced to draw in 3 months once resentment has compounded. That sidereal guidance window in the early afternoon may be exactly when a senior colleague or unexpected outside voice hands you the clarity you need. So stay open to that conversation rather than dismissing it. This naturally bridges into money, because the same Uranus square rattling your creative plans has a direct line to your finances too. Expect the financial theme today to be about scale rather than scarcity. It is less, you do not have enough, and more, you are about to spend more than the moment requires. That eighth house Uranus placement governs shared resources specifically, so if money crosses paths with another person today, a joint purchase, a split bill, a shared subscription, read the fine print before you agree to anything. The energy favors caution around new financial commitments made in the heat of enthusiasm, not because disaster looms, but because a slower look at the details will save you an argument later. Pattern interrupt. Reflection pause. Take a breath here, because what comes next connects everything you have just heard into one single realization. Here is what makes today genuinely worth paying attention to. The dissolving boundaries at work, the financial jolt tied to a creative plan, and the sidereal window of unexpected guidance are all variations on one theme. Something in your life has grown slightly larger than its container, and today's sky is applying gentle pressure to help you notice before it overflows. The Western lens frames this as a Neptune fog around your obligations. The sidereal lens frames it as new beginnings arriving through a stranger or a senior voice. Both are describing the identical moment from different angles, one focused on what needs to shrink, the other on what is about to open. Most people watching a horoscope today will hear these as unrelated tidbits. You now know they are the same story. That recognition matters for your body too. A small, consistent health habit, a morning walk, 10 minutes of stretching, a short run before the day gets loud, tends to do disproportionate good right now, both for your energy and your mood. If work stress has been sitting in your shoulders or your sleep, this is the day to address it directly rather than postponing it again. On the subject of remedies, some Vedic practitioners might suggest wearing green today, tied to the day's lucky color designation in sidereal tradition, and general color association is safe for anyone to try. But if you ever hear a blanket recommendation for a specific gemstone for your entire sign, treat it with skepticism. Gemstone prescription in Vedic astrology depends on your individual birth chart, your planetary dignities, and your current dasha period. It is never one size fits all, and a generic recommendation is not something to act on without a personal consultation. Family and social life today benefit from the same theme of honest scale. If you have been quietly carrying more emotional weight for people around you than they realize, this is a good day to voice it gently rather than let it fester. Perhaps you have noticed a pattern where you absorb other people's needs by default. Naming that out loud, even briefly, tends to relieve pressure faster than you would expect. Keep your tone warm rather than accusatory. The fifth house moon still favors playfulness within family settings too, so a shared laugh or a spontaneous small gathering could do more good than a serious conversation. If travel is on your mind, this is a day to hold plans loosely. Should a trip start to feel like more logistics, cost, or coordination than it is worth, stepping back and revisiting it with fresh eyes in a day or two serves you better than pushing through out of stubbornness. Spiritually, the same lesson recurs one final time. Surrender the version of the plan, the job, the relationship dynamic that has outgrown what actually fits your life, and something more sustainable tends to take its place. For those who like their guidance quick, here it is. Lucky window, 2:15 to 3:15 in the afternoon. Lucky color, green. Favorable approach, honesty with anyone senior to you. Caution area, shared money or joint plans. Energy, to lean into, self-expression over comparison. So here is where today actually leaves you. Look at one commitment, one plan, or one financial agreement today and ask honestly whether its current size still fits your life. Right size the one that does not. Say the vulnerable thing to the person who deserves to hear it. And treat that early afternoon window as an invitation to actually listen, rather than perform confidence you do not feel. None of this requires a dramatic leap, Scorpio, just an honest look at what is real and what has grown a little too big to sustain. If this kind of grounded red resonates, staying around for tomorrow's chart will show you exactly how this theme continues to unfold.